Está favor. Vai,
শাহরিয়ার ভাই আছেন?
হ্যালো,
জি শাহরিয়ার ভাই,
জি ভাই।
আপনি বোধহয় কো হোস্ট আজকের নাকি?
হ্যাঁ, আমি কো হোস্ট, যদিও ভাই মানে
আচ্ছা,
আলটিমেটলি কোনো তফাৎ হয় না, তবে হ্যাঁ আমাকে মনে হচ্ছে কো হোস্ট বানাইছে।
হ্যাঁ আপনি কি এমনি আগেও কখনো ওই তারেক কামাল স্যারের ক্লাসগুলো কি রেকর্ডিং করেন কিনা, অথবা রেকর্ডিং গুলো আছে
না
কিনা
না
আপনার কাছে প্রথম ক্লাস থেকে?
না 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 স্যার,
আচ্ছা,
রেকর্ডিং গুলো নাই। এগুলো তো আমাদের কাছে এইটা রেকর্ডিং আইসিবি থেকে যেটা হয় সেটা শেয়ার করে দেওয়া হচ্ছে আর কি, এইটুকুই।
ও আচ্ছা, আইসিএবি থেকে কি তাহলে প্রথম ক্লাসটা রেকর্ডিং দিছে কিনা? ওই যে
এটা
আই
আমিও শিওর না ভাই, আমি আসলে হচ্ছে গিয়ে কি এগুলো কাজগুলো করার জন্য করতেছি আর কি। আম, আমার প্রিপারেশন এবার মূলত দুইটা সাবজেক্ট আমি প্রিপারেশন নিচ্ছি আর কি। অন্য
আচ্ছা
সাবজেক্ট
আচ্ছা,
গুলো কাজগুলো করে রাখতেছি, বাট আসলে এটা ফলোআপটা ওভাবে হচ্ছে না। বাট মানে যেই ক্লাসগুলো আইসিবি থেকে অলরেডি শেয়ার করা হয়েছে আর কি, ওগুলো সবই
হ্যাঁ
কিন্তু আমরা
এগুলো
শেয়ার করে দিছি
এটা
100%।
কোথায় করছেন ভাইয়া? এটা করছেন কি মানে হোয়াটসঅ্যাপে না টেলিগ্রামে?
হোয়াটসঅ্যাপে আমাদের এইগুলো লাস্ট যে গত যে মানে গত সপ্তাহ পর্যন্ত সম্ভবত, মানে যে যে
আচ্ছা,
ডেট পর্যন্ত হইতেছে গিয়ে আমাদের সাথে আইসিবি শেয়ার করছে, আমরা এটা গ্রুপে
হুম,
হোয়াটসঅ্যাপে শেয়ার করে দিছি।
এই মানে ভিডিও রেকর্ডিং হোয়াটসঅ্যাপে আছে এই তো?
হ্যাঁ, ভিডিও রেকর্ডিং হোয়াটসঅ্যাপে আছে, এটা আছে আপনার মূলত লিংক গুলো আছে আর কি, লিংক গুলো আছে প্লাস ওগুলো
আচ্ছা,
পাসওয়ার্ড আছে আর কি। তা আপনি পাসওয়ার্ড দিয়ে ঢুকতে পারতেছেন, প্লাস যদি ডাউনলোড করে নিতে চান ওখান থেকে ডাউনলোড করে নিতে পারবেন, এটাই।
ঠিক আছে ঠিক আছে ভাইয়া, আমি তাহলে একটু চেক করতেছি। হ্যাঁ, খুব দরকার ছিল আর কি, এই জন্যই। জি, থ্যাংক ইউ ভাইয়া। জি।
আসসালামু আলাইকুম শাহরিয়ার।
সালাম স্যার।
আব্দুল হালিম বলছি। ভালো?
হ্যালো।
সবাই সবাই ভালো আছি তো আমরা ইনশাআল্লাহ।
জি স্যার, জি স্যার, আলহামদুলিল্লাহ আমরা ভালো আছি স্যার, আপনি ভালো আছেন?
আছি, থ্যাংক ইউ ভেরি মাচ। ওই যে আমি ঢুকতে ঢুকতে মনে হয় শুনতে পেলাম আমাদের কি যেন ওই রেকর্ডিং, হ্যাঁ আমরা ওই রেকর্ডিং সব, আই থিংক ইউ আর ক্যাপ্টেন, সো ইউ উইল রিসিভ অল দ্য রেকর্ডিংস। হ্যাঁ আমাদের বলা আছে সরকার ভাইকে, মামুনকে। এই জন্য আমার কথা শোনা যায় শাহরিয়ার?
স্যার কথা ক্লিয়ার শুনতে পাচ্ছি।
আচ্ছা আচ্ছা, এখন যেটা বলতে চাচ্ছি যে রেকর্ডিং সব আসবে, and you will distribute under your good guidance। হ্যাঁ এগুলো আমরা যারা প্রয়োজন, যে হয়তো দু একটা ক্লাসে থাকে নাই, you will also distribute। আর এটা যেন ওই হোয়াটসঅ্যাপে ভালো অথবা ইমেলে ভালো, ফেসবুক বা এগুলো কি একটা সবসময় টেন্ডেন্সি কাজ করে, এটা বলে হলো যে ইরিকুয়াল টেন্ডেন্সি, তার মানে যে কোনো সময় হয়তো খামখেয়ালি ঘটে যায়, এটা আছে এদিকে দিই ছেড়ে এরকম। তো এই আমাদের রেকর্ডিং গুলো, আমার রিকোয়েস্ট থাকবে, though there's a the asset of you including the institute, you are the part of our body, that means institute's body, কাজে আমাদের মিড লেভেলের ছাত্র আমাদের ছাত্র, এই জন্য অন্য কোথাও না, আমাদের ছাত্রদের ইমেলের মধ্যে থাক, হোয়াটসঅ্যাপে থাক, এর ভিতরে আর কি। অন্য কোথাও ইভেন অন্য সেকশনে দেওয়ারও আমি মনে করি এটা ঠিক না, কারণ দিস ইজ সেকশন ফর ইউ, কেন অন্য সেকশনে দেবেন? তাহলে সেকশন দুটো করে আমাদের ইয়েটা কি, মানে হোয়াটস দ্য fruitful or the, I think, effectiveness of our activities, তাহলে শ্রেণী বা ক্লাসিফিকেশন করে আমাদের লাভটা কি? এই জন্য আমার থাকবে যে নিজে, আর যেটা সরকার ভাইকে আমার বলা আছে, উনি ইজ ভেরি গুড, আমাদের সরকার ভাই খুবই পরিশ্রমী এবং সারাদিন আমার মতোই আপনাদের নিয়ে ব্যস্ত থাকেন। এই জন্য সব দিয়ে দিবেন, না হলে ফোন করবেন। ফোন নম্বর আছে না শাহরিয়ার ভাই?
জি স্যার, আছে স্যার, আছে স্যার।
ঠিক আছে। আচ্ছা, আজকে আমাদের তো স্যারের সাথে আমার কথা হয়েছে, এই জন্য স্যার চলে আসবেন, সেশন হবে, কাজে নো টেন্স। এক, আর কোনো অসুবিধা হচ্ছে বা ফার্দার কোনো সাপোর্ট প্রয়োজন অথবা কোনো ক্লাসে কি বোঝা যাচ্ছে না, হ্যাঁ, ফ্রি ফ্র্যাঙ্ক এগুলো আমি যখন আসবো তখন আমাকে, আর এখানে সব ডায়াসে কিছু কথা আছে বলা যায় না, তো তখন আমাকে মেলে দিয়ে কোনো অসুবিধা হলে we are here,
Thank you, sir. Thank you,
problem.
sir. এটা আমি অবশ্যই দিব স্যার। আর স্যার আমরা হচ্ছে হোয়াটসঅ্যাপ গ্রুপে মূলত রেকর্ডিং এর লিংক গুলো শেয়ার করছি, কিন্তু সেই সাথে আমরা মানে আমাদের ক্লাসমেটদেরকে এটাও জানাই দিছি যে এগুলো শুধুমাত্র আমাদের পার্সোনাল ইউজের জন্য, যাতে এটা হইতেছে কি আমরা পাবলিকলি শেয়ার না করি বা মানে আমরা হইতেছে কেয়ারফুলি এটাকে ইউজ করি আর কি। এই
এটা
মেসেজটা আমিও স্যার
এটা গুড
করে দিচ্ছি।
গুড মাই ডিয়ার, ভেরি গুড। এটা আমি কেন বললাম, এটা অনেক পারপাজে চলে যায়। যেমন অনেক
জি, স্যার।
প্রফেশন আছে না আমাদের, এটাকে ক্যাশ করে তারা ইউটিলাইজ করে। এইগুলো দিব কেন? এটা তো আমাদের আছে, তাই না?
জি, স্যার।
যেমন অন্যান্য স্টাডি যেগুলো আছে, নর্মাল স্টাডি, সে এডুকেশন যে যাই বলুক, এখনো এটা ডিগনিফাইড এবং ভেরি ইন্ডাস্ট্রিয়াস এডুকেশন। দো আই এম নট চার্টার্ড অ্যাকাউন্টেন্ট, কিন্তু উই আর প্রডিউসিং চার্টার্ড অ্যাকাউন্টেন্ট। তো
জি,
এই
স্যার।
জন্য যেটা বলার যে এজন্য অন্যখানে গেলে এটা হয়তো মিসইউজ হয়ে যাবে। আর এ জামানা তো এটারে ডিজিটালাইজেশন রিজিম, তো
জি,
এই
স্যার।
জন্য একটু ইয়াতে থাকবো। বাট ইউ আর টোটালি সেন্সিবল, দ্যাট মিনস সেন্সিবল, বিবেকবান বলছি এটা। কাজে ইট
থ্যাংক
উইল
ইউ।
বি no problem, and we believe that as like previously you are, I think with have the standardizations, and you will also success and take carry it. আর এখানে আমি
থ্যাংক ইউ।
বলি যে কিছু কিছু ভালো ভালো শিক্ষাবিদ, প্রফেশনাল, দেশ বরেণ্য এবং দু একজন আছেন globally, চেষ্টা করতেছি দু একটা সেশনে আনার জন্য। এটা হবে কি যে এজ ইউজুয়াল আপনারা যা লেখাপড়া, এটা তো আমাদের ম্যানুয়াল আছে, ফার্স্ট কোশ্চেন সলিউশনস আছে, স্যারেরা পড়াচ্ছেন রেগুলাররা হলো, কিন্তু কিছু কিছু জিনিস আছে, প্র্যাকটিক্যাল ফিল্ড, প্রেজেন্টেশনস, রেপুটেশনস, ইমেজ, স্ট্যান্ডার্ডাইজেশনস, এই যে এখন এই নিত্য নৈমিত্য জামানার যেগুলো ফ্যাক্টর, এই জন্য যেমন আমাদের শ্রদ্ধেয় প্রধান নির্বাহী স্যার, উনি সিনিয়র সচিব ছিলেন, রাষ্ট্রের সর্বোচ্চ পদ। আর ওই দুইটা পদ আছে, মন্ত্রী পরিষদ সচিব, আর একটা হচ্ছে প্রিন্সিপাল সেক্রেটারি বা মুখ্য সচিব, ওটা প্রাইম মিনিস্টারের রিকমেন্ডেড। তো এই জন্য যেটা বলি, এই বরেণ্য দেখেন একজন নিয়ে আসলাম, এরপরে হয়তো শিক্ষাবিদ এবং প্রফেশনালিস্ট দু একজন আনবো। বিজনেস স্ট্র্যাটেজিতে চিন্তা করতেছি একজন ভিসি আনার, দুটো করে হয়তো, দুইটা বা চারটা, যেটাই দিক উনি ওভারঅল সেট বা ডিসকাশন দিবেন, ভালো হবে। ভাইস
জি, স্যার। থ্যাংক
চ্যান্সেলর
ইউ,
আনার
স্যার।
চেষ্টা করতেছি। আবার অডিট অ্যান্ড অ্যাসুরেন্সের আপনার কি বলে যে যারা এগুলো নীতি নির্ধারণী পর্যায়ে দেশ বরণ এফআরসি থেকে দু একজন আনার চেষ্টা করছি, ফিনান্সিয়াল রিপোর্টিং কাউন্সিল থেকে। তো এই ধরনের আপনারা অল্প সেশন হবে, আমার রিকোয়েস্ট থাকবে যে রেগুলার যেগুলো এগুলো হচ্ছে হবে, যেভাবে বলবেন চলবে, এগুলোতে আপনারা দুই একজন সবাই আমরা যখন ডাকবো, ইনভাইট করবো, থেকে এতে দুইটা জিনিস হবে। একটা হচ্ছে যে ওনারা যা দেখবেন করবেন, এগুলো আমাদের সিলেবাস, প্রিভিয়াস কোশ্চেন, সেগুলো ফলো করে আগাবেন। কিন্তু বিষয় হলো যে এই প্রফেশনের এবং আপনাদের সাথে ওনাদের একটা হয়ে গেল, কি বলা যায়, কানেক্টিভিটি অফ দ্য কানেকশনস ইন ফিউচার, যেগুলো আপনাদের, আমাদের ছাত্রদের পরিচিতিতে এবং বিভিন্ন কর্মক্ষেত্রে অত্যন্ত হেল্পফুল হবে। তো এই আর এমনি কোনো অসুবিধা বা হচ্ছে কিনা, যেমন কোনো টিচারের কোনো কিছু বোঝা যাচ্ছে কিনা, অথবা কোনো টিচারের আছে কিনা, যেমন আমার ধারণা সবাই চেষ্টা করতেছে, দে আর ভেরি গুড অ্যান্ড স্টুডেন্টস ওরিয়েন্টেড, ফ্রেন্ডলি রিলেশনশিপ। তো কাজেই আমার মনে হয় না যে যেমন হবে, তবুও আমার বলতে হবে, কারণ ইউ আর অলসো, কি বলবো, যে ফোকাল টু আস। আমরা যে এত কিছু করতেছি, এটা আমাদের ছাত্রদের জন্য। টিচারেরা
জি,
সম্মানীয়, we respect them, but in the interest of the what? Students. এই
জি,
জন্য
স্যার।
কোথাও কোনো অসুবিধা হলে, কোনো জড়তা সৃষ্টি হলে, অথবা কিছু বলতে হলে, আই এম হিয়ার। কাজেই
থ্যাংক ইউ, স্যার। জি, স্যার। অফকোর্স।
প্লিজ মেল টু মি, আমাকে মেল করুন।
জি, স্যার।
কোনো
থ্যাংক
ছাত্রের
ইউ ভেরি
কোনো
মাচ, স্যার।
অসুবিধা, কেউ ক্লাসে, যেমন আমার এখানে অনেক ছাত্র আছেন চিটাগংয়ে, অনেক ছাত্র আছেন বরিশালে, অনেক ছাত্র আছেন নারায়ণগঞ্জে। তো এখন দেখেন করোনা ভাইরাস, একটু স্যার আস্তে আস্তে দু এক কথা বলি, অসুবিধা নাই। And sir is very respected and dear to us, কাজে স্যারের সামনে বললেও কোনো অসুবিধা নেই। তো যেটা বলতে চাইলাম যে ওই অনেক এই যে ডিউ টু প্যান্ডামিক বলি, পেস্টালাইসেন্স বলি, করোনায় আমাদের অনেকের হচ্ছে, ফিজিক্যালি ক্লাসটা হচ্ছে না। ফিজিক্যালি ক্লাস খুবই ভালো, কিন্তু বিষয় হচ্ছে যে এখন এমন একটা মানুষের হ্যাবিচুয়াস এবং এটা বলে ইউজ টু রিলেশনশিপ হয়ে গেছে যে এখন অনেকে ওই বলতেছে আবার যাব এই ছুটি নিয়ে। আবার এরকম আমার কাছে 17 জন ছাত্র আছে আপনার এই প্রফেশনালের, তারা ঢাকার আউটসাইডে, এবং কেউ একটা সাবজেক্টে দুটো সাবজেক্টও বেঁধে আছে, এরকম ছাত্র আছে এখানে ক্লাস করে। তো যেটা বলতে চাচ্ছি যে এই সুবাদে এই যে জুম বা অনলাইন যেটা, এটাকে একটু কার্যকরী তুলেন, মানে কার্যকরী করে ফেলেন। আমি এখনো পর্যন্ত আপনাদের এই যে যদি তেমন প্রয়োজন হয়, আমাদের 2-4টা ক্লাস যেমন ফিনান্সিয়াল ম্যানেজমেন্ট বলি, তারপরে ফিনান্সিয়াল অ্যাকাউন্টিং রিপোর্টিং, এগুলো যদি কিছু প্রয়োজন হয়, আমরা হয়তো আফটার কি বলে যে এটা কি মাস, জুন জুলাইয়ের হয়তো, যদি আপনারা রাজি থাকেন, সাবজেক্ট টু ইউ, কারণ আমার এগুলো 2-একটা বা 4-5টা বা প্রত্যেক ক্লাসের যেটা এসেনশিয়াল 2-একটা ফিজিক্যাল ক্লাসের দিকেও মন নেব কিনা। এখানে আরেকটা প্রশ্ন আসবে যে অনেক ছেলে কিন্তু তারা এখানে পার্টিসিপেট করতে পারবে না। আমাদের প্রফেশনাল লেভেলে যারা আছেন ম্যাক্সিমামই সার্ভিস হোল্ডার, মাই ডিয়ার। এই জন্য মানে একটু আসি, যেমন স্পেশাল ক্লাস আমরা শুরু করে দিয়েছি, ট্যাক্সেশন, প্ল্যানিং এন্ড কমপ্লায়েন্স আর ফিনান্সিয়াল ম্যানেজমেন্ট। তো এখানে মাত্র যে ছাত্রগুলো আমি মনে হয় 41 দেখলাম, 3 জন তারা বলতেছে আমরা ফিজিক্যালি চাই, অন্যগুলা বলতেছে আসতে পারবো, এই করবো, আবার আছে মানে অন্য ধরনের। তো আমি এই তুলে ধরার কারণটা হলো এই যে থিঙ্ক ইউর সেলফ, রাইটনেস অফ ইউর, এটারে বলা যায় নিড অর নেসেসিটি। আপনি এখানে আসছেন লেখাপড়ার জন্য, এই জন্য আপনি যেটা ভালো বুঝবেন এখানে সেটা করে নেন। টিচারদের সামনে পাচ্ছেন, আমাদের আপত্তি নাই ফিজিক্যালি কোনো ধরনের ক্লাস করতে, আপনাদের মাঝে মধ্যে ক্লাস করাতে পারবো। এখন পর্যন্ত আমি যেটা মনে করি যে যদি তেমন ছাত্র পাই, হয়তো কিছু আমরা 2-একটা সেশনে যাব সিনিয়র লেভেলের, অসুবিধা নেই। তো আমি এটা চলে আসি, 2-এক কথা বলে আমি বিদায় নিব। সেটা হচ্ছে যে ইউর ongoing situations of your very, I think, good sessions, and here maximum teachers are senior. Okay, that means they are teaching to all the professional students. I think some respected teachers 17 years, 18 years, some else, and the tenure of I think 5 years past. FCA যেগুলো ভাববেন ওনাদের তেমনি 5 বছর হয়ে গেছে। এই জন্য প্লিজ এনজয় দ্য ক্লাস। আর ওই যে আরেকটা কথা যেটা বললাম যে any necessity we are here, you are part of our body, you are very dearest to us, আমরা এখানে আছি, কোনো অসুবিধা হবে না। আর নিজের মতো ক্লাস অ্যাটেন্ডেন্স চেষ্টা করেন, সকলে তো থাকেন দেখি, একটু সব সময় থাকা, শুক্র শনিবার একটু বুঝে সময়টা নেন, অফিসেই থাকেন, মানে the era or the regime how to make us the feasible to take anything. এই যে দেখেন জুমে আমি বসে এই যে সুন্দর সামনে আপনারা হাজির হয়ে যাচ্ছে, আপনি এখানে চ্যাটে দিতে পারতেছেন, কথা বলতে পারতেছেন, এইরকম আপনি ব্যস্ত থাকেন, তবুও আপনি সংযোগে থাকবেন, লিঙ্কে থাকবেন, জয়েন্ট বলে যুক্ত থাকা, বাংলা একটা সুন্দর ওয়ার্ড ইউজ হয় এখন, এই যে আপনার অনলাইনে যুক্ত আছেন, যুক্ত থাকেন। তো এরকম তো আমরা সকলে থাকি। অ্যাটেন্ডেন্স মোটামুটি মনে হয় ক্লাস শুরু করা যাবে। আমি দেখি আমাদের পরম শ্রদ্ধেয় স্যার হয়তো চলে আসবেন বা এসেছেন, মনে হয় স্যার আসছেন না?
জি স্যার, স্যার আসছে স্যার।
আচ্ছা, থ্যাংক ইউ। না, আমার স্যারের সাথে কথা হয়ে গেছে, আমার স্যারকে ছেড়ে আমি হ্যান্ড ওভার করবো। এক কথা বলি, স্যার একটু রেস্ট নেই, অত্যন্ত শ্রদ্ধাভাজন আমাদের। আর আসলে দেখেন 4 দিন, স্যার তো মনে হয় শুনবেন, শুনুন, স্যারের খারাপ লাগবে। 4 দিনই আমরা স্যারকে এনগেজ রাখছি, আপনার প্রফেশনাল লেভেলে 2 দিন আর সার্টিফিকেট লেভেল 2 দিন, এটা কি ইন দ্য ইন্টারেস্ট অফ দ্য স্টুডেন্ট, যে ওভারঅল একটা ব্যাপক এক্সট্রা অর্ডিনারি সেশন। এটা আমাকে সেদিন প্রফেশনালের সেশন এতে বলতেছিলেন মনিরুজ্জামান, স্যার স্যার এসে আমাদের ভালো হয়ে গেছে। আমি বলি, ঠিক আছে, গুড, ভেরি, কিন্তু বিষয় হলো যে আপনারা স্যারের ক্লাস থেকে আরেকটা জিনিস শিখে নেবেন, কি যে স্পিকিং অ্যান্ড দ্য মেকিং কনভারসেশন ইংলিশ। দেখবেন স্যারের ইংরেজি গুলো এত সুন্দর, ছোট ছোট, যে আমরা ড্রাফট দিই, তো স্যার দেখেন সুন্দর করে দেখি, আমরা বয়সে কম, ছোট, দেখলে একটু জটিল হয়ে যায়, কিন্তু স্যার সেটাকে সুন্দর করে করে দেন। It's a great opportunity. Please, you are matured, your maximum here, standing up your standard or achievement. আপনার এখানে যেটা আছেন, আমি I believe myself, আপনি আপনার কি বলে যে মেরিট দিয়ে এখানে আসছেন, এই লেভেলটা পাস করলে once upon you will see ইনশাআল্লাহ। তো এটা ফলো করবেন। প্রেজেন্টেশন, স্যার বিদেশেও সুন্দর করে প্রেজেন্টেশন, এখানে আমি স্যারের গুণগ্রাহিতা বর্ণনা করতেছি, আমি তার অ্যাচিভমেন্টটা বলতেছি। ভেরি লার্নেড, প্রেজেন্টেবল, এইগুলো আমরা একটু শিখে নিব এখানে। হ্যাঁ, এই জন্যই তো আপনার গেস্ট ফ্যাকাল্টিকে আনা আমাদের সকলের, আবার এই জন্যই তো স্যারকে এখানে রাখা। আর অত্যন্ত শিক্ষাবর্তী মানুষ, আপনারা একটা ক্লাস করেছেন, করেন আরো, দেখবেন। কাজে বি ফ্রি, ফ্র্যাঙ্ক, আপনি ইফ ইউ থিঙ্ক that it is unknown to you and you are not flourish in English, you will make বাংলা, আপনি বাংলায় বলেন, স্যারের অনুমতি আছে, স্যার এটা স্যার উইল মেক কভার। আর সেশনটা অত্যন্ত সুন্দর সাবলীল ভাবে চলছে, ইংরেজিতেই চলুক, আমি রিকোয়েস্ট করব। থ্যাংক ইউ শাহরিয়ার, মাই ডিয়ার।
থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার।
I am also observing you. Nice to see you. You are always good, including your all the I think classmates. সবাই
থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার।
তো আমি মনে হয় স্যারকে 7:40 দেই, and finding your feasibility, take your prayer time or others, no issue. এই সকল ভাই বোনদের আবারও দোয়া থাকলো, আর সিনাপসিসটা একটু দেখে নিব, and যেভাবে আপনি স্যারের সাথে শেয়ার করেন এবার। আজকে অ্যাকচুয়ালি দিস ইজ দ্য সেকেন্ড রাউন্ড, সেকেন্ড সেশন। তাহলে কি হলো, 1-2 ক্লাস চলে গেছে, যে সিনপসিস দেওয়া আছে ওখানে হয়তো কিছু থাকতে পারে বা আছে, এটা ইনক্লুডিং আমরা সেকেন্ড রাউন্ডে যে সিনপসিস দিলাম তৃতীয় চতুর্থ ক্লাসে, এর ভিতরেই স্যার থাকবেন এবং কভার হবে। আর এইগুলো কি, দিস আর দ্য বাংলা বলে নির্জাস্ট জিস্ট অফ ইউর ম্যানুয়াল and syllabus contents and have also the questions, এইগুলো সব নেওয়া। আমি স্যারকে 5 বছরের কোশ্চেন দিয়েছিলাম, স্টাডি ম্যানুয়াল দিয়েছিলাম, সিলেবাস দিয়েছিলাম, এগুলো সংমিশ্রণ, কাজে এটা গদ বাঁধা কথা নয়। এই জন্য আপনারা এটাকে মূল্য দিবেন এবং এইভাবে নিবেন। So thank you very much, my dear all, and please just to join and continue your session. Sir, I am your Halil sir, and I would humble request, please you may come in your adjust, I think, videos and start your valuable session. Sir, please.
থ্যাংক ইউ ভেরি মাচ স্যার।
Adab, sir. We are seeing you, and please unmute it. Yes, okay, sir. Adab, sir. স্যার শুরু করা যাবে, আপনি শুরু করেন স্যার। আর আমি অনুমতি নেই, আর শাহরিয়ার আছে, অন্যরা সবাই অ্যাটেন্ডেন্সও ভালো, কাজে আলহামদুলিল্লাহ, নো প্রবলেম। থ্যাংক ইউ, আর আমি বিদায় নিচ্ছি স্যার, অনুমতি দিলাম। আদাব স্যার, প্লিজ।
থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার।
Yeah. Let us start this session. I had some other sessions with you before. So today's session is also like the previous one. In the previous session, I discussed some of the problems as well as some of the case studies. So did I complete all the case studies with you, or there are some case studies left unattended? you want to discuss some of the case studies unattended, then we can discuss those. Otherwise, we can start with the new synopsis. What has been given to you through the students' counseling department. Okay. In that case, I think let us go through the synopsis, the later one, and there are some questions and case studies. Number one problem is, if you have already gone through it, you know it well. Otherwise, you can go through it now and we can discuss it right at this moment. Mr. X is a businessman who submitted a return under Section 75, self-assessment scheme, showing an income of Taka 50 lakhs for the assessment year 2021-2022. Afterwards, he found out that the shown income was not correct for the relevant income year. He had another source of income, that is from fisheries. The income of fisheries amounted to Taka 25 lakhs. So he decided to revise the return showing the income from fisheries as exempted. Accordingly, he submitted to the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes a revised return under Section 78. The Deputy Commissioner of Taxes did not accept the income of fisheries as exempted. So, while making assessment, the DCT included income from fisheries in the total income, but he estimated the income from fisheries at 35 lakh instead of 25 lakhs as shown by the assessee himself. What should be the implication of this on the income of the assessee? What suggestion would you give the assessee? So, an assessee has come to you because you are a chartered accountant, maybe a practicing chartered accountant, and you also practice income tax. So that's why he has come to you to seek your advice. What suggestion would you give him? And whether the DCT was right in doing it or not. So first, the action of the DCT has to be identified, whether correct or not. So what has been said here? The assessee has submitted a return under Section 75. Generally, when the return is submitted under Section 75, it means that you have submitted the return within the tax day or on the tax day or before the tax day, whatever you say. So what is the tax day? It is known to you, I hope.
30th November, sir.
30th November. So 30th November is the last date of submission of the return. And you can submit the return on 30th November or before that date, starting from the 1st of July, because that is the start of the assessment year, first day of the assessment year. So if you submit your return within the tax day, then you have no other obligation. You can avail of the opportunities given by the government. Opportunities like you can submit the return under the self-assessment scheme. Self-assessment scheme means you can calculate your own income, you can calculate your own tax, you can deposit the tax into the treasury, and then you can submit the return along with the necessary documents. So when the return is accepted by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes, then a receipt is given to you, and that receipt would be treated as the assessment order. So you don't have to worry about that. That means when the assessment would be completed or not, and which date it would be completed, whether a notice will be given to you or not. So there will be no notice from the side of the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. So that's why that is a very good advantage for the assessor. So Mr. X, who is an SSC, he submitted the return showing his income at taka 50 lakhs. That means he has got some sources of income, maybe from business, and that income is taka 50 lakhs. After submission of the return, he found out that he had committed some mistakes. Maybe he did not show a certain amount of money coming from another source. The source is mentioned here. The source is fisheries sector. That means he has got some fisheries income, and that income was not actually shown in the return. So he found out that he had 25 lakhs of taka as income from fisheries, and he wanted to include it in the return. That means he wanted to enhance the total income. What is the procedure of doing it? If you want to revise the return, that means if you want to change the figure of income, or if you find out any mistake in the return and you want to rectify that, then what is the procedure? The procedure is you have to submit the return in a revised form. Revised form means a revised return has to be submitted to the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. So that return has to be submitted under section 78, meaning that you can change the income and you can resubmit it. So the concerned person, he did the same. He changed the return and his total income was shown at taka 75 lakhs now. 50 lakhs taka from business and 25 lakhs taka from fisheries. So 75 lakhs taka he showed in his return. Now the DCT, while examining his return, found out that he had included fisheries income, and he claimed that the fisheries income was subject to exemption. So what the DCT did? The DCT did not accept the return. Rather, he calculated his income afresh. That means he kept the business income as it is. That means 50 lakhs taka, and the income from fisheries 25 lakhs taka. That was enhanced. That means it was enhanced to 35 lakhs taka. Now the question is whether the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes was right in doing it or not. The SSC has come to you and seeking your advice. Tell me, please. If you think that the DCT was correct in his action, you will tell the SSC that yes, the DCT was correct in his action, so no action could be taken against his order. That might be said by you. But if you think that the DCT was not correct in taking the order, that means in taking the action as it is, you should tell that it should accept it, or if not correct, then you can go for preferring an appeal against it.
Sir, I think DCT action is correct. If you see the under section 19/31, then I think according to the 19/31 section, DCT action is correct.
Okay, so if we look at section 19, subsection 31, what is said here? It is said that if the return is revised by the SSC showing an exempted income or showing income at a reduced rate, then it should be fully taxed. That means it cannot be treated as exempt. Tax rate will be normal. Usual rate of tax would apply to it. So that is said here. If you look at the book, you can go through it properly. In 1931, where an SSC files a revised return or an amended return under section 78, 82 BB or 93, and shows in such revised return or amended return any income that is subject to tax exemption or a reduced tax rate, or any income derived from the sources mentioned in paragraph 33 of part A of the 6th schedule, so much of such income as exceeds the amount shown in the original return shall be deemed to be the income of the SSC for that income year, classifiable under the head income from other sources. So the revised return, income shown in the revised return exceeded the income shown in the original return by Taka 25 lakhs. And this income should be assessed at normal tax rate. So the action taken by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes is correct. But one part of the action can be contested. That means the DCT has enhanced the fisheries income from Taka 25 lakh to Taka 35 lakh. So this part of the action can be contested because you can refer an appeal before the appellate joint commissioner or appellate additional commissioner requesting for reduction of the income from fisheries to Taka 25 lakhs because you have already shown it. So that's why it should be reduced to Taka 25 lakhs, or it should be accepted, whatever you have shown in the return. It is okay that the income from fisheries would be taxed at the normal rate, but still then the size of the income, that means the quantum of income from fisheries cannot be enhanced. So the appellate joint commissioner or the appellate additional commissioner can give a verdict in your favor, reducing that income to taka 25 lakhs from taka 35 lakhs as assessed by the deputy commissioner of taxes. So that advice you can give to the assessor. So the decision is that DCT's action was correct, but to some extent it was not correct. So you can refer an appeal against the enhancement of the fisheries income to taka 35 lakhs from taka 25 lakhs. So that suggestion could be given to the assessor. That is the answer. Okay, then question number 2. XYZ is a private limited company which has got a capital of taka 5 crores. The company earned an income of taka 50 lakhs for the income year 2020-2021. The company felt the necessity of buying 2 jeeps from the Pragati Limited for company's operational activity and official use. Company had an accumulated reserve of taka 50 lakhs. The cost of 2 jeeps was taka 1,40,000. That means 70 lakh taka each. What would be the treatment of this transaction from the perspective of income tax by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes? What should be the income of the company for the assessment year 2021-2022? Assume that the tax rate of the company is 45%. So the problems have been given here. Problems are that the company is a private limited company, of course, and it had a paid up capital of taka 5 crores. And during the income year or at the end of the income year, the company recorded a net profit of taka 50 lakhs. Now the company feels that it should buy 2 jeeps from the Pragati Limited, and each of the jeeps would cost it 70 lakhs taka. And the total cost of the 2 jeeps would be 1 crore 40 lakhs taka. What should be the treatment of this transaction from the perspective of income tax by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes? And you have to assume the tax rate at 45%. So which section you have to consult for this?
Sir, section 19/27.
1927. Okay. So in that section, what is said? And how can you solve this problem? What would be the income of the company from the transaction? That means from buying of 2 jeeps. So first of all, you have to look at section 1927. What is said in 1927? So if you understand it well, then you can solve the problem easily. There won't be any problem. Where an SSC, being a company, purchases directly or on hire 1 or more motor car or jeep, and value of any motor car or jeep exceeds 10% of its paid up capital to together with reserve and accumulated profit, then 50% of the amount that exceeds such 10% of the paid up capital together with reserve and accumulated profit shall be deemed to be the income of such associate for the income year classifiable under the head income from other sources. So income from other sources means under section 33. And another income of the company should be calculated under section 28 because the company is doing business. So that's why income from business would be calculated under section 28. And another section is section 33, that means income from other sources. So it has been indicated here that you have to first calculate the paid up capital and the accumulated reserve, the total figure. The total figure of paid up capital and accumulated reserve should be 5 crores 50 lakhs. So 10% of this figure, that means 55 lakhs. So the total cost of the jeeps is Taka 1 crore 40 lakhs. So whatever we have calculated as 10% of the paid up capital plus accumulated reserve, that is 55 lakhs Taka. The cost of the jeeps has exceeded that amount, that is 55 lakhs Taka, by how much? 1 crore 40 lakhs minus 55 lakhs. It means 85 lakhs. So it has exceeded that amount, that is 10% of paid up capital and accumulated reserve, by 85 lakhs Taka. So now we got the figure. And what should we do now? What the section says? Section says that if 50% of the amount that exceeds such 10% shall be deemed to be the income of such associate, or the income year classifiable under the head income from other sources. 50% of the exceeded amount. That means we calculated the exceeded amount to be Taka 85 lakhs. And 50% of these 85 lakhs is Taka. How much?
Sir, 42.5 lakhs.
42 lakhs. 42.5 lakhs. Yes. So 50% of that amount, that means 42 lakhs 50,000. This will be treated, or this will be classifiable under the head income from other sources. So 42 lakhs 50,000 Taka would be treated as income from other sources under section 33. So when the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes will frame the assessment order or write the assessment order, he will write there that income from other source under section 33 Red with section 1927 is calculated at taka 42 lakhs 50,000 along with the income of the business of the company. So this income is not business income, rather this income is an income from other source under section 33, and business income would be calculated under section 28. So that should be the figure. And now it has been said that the tax rate would be 45%. So you will calculate 45% on the income of business as well as the income from other sources. Tax rate would be 45% in this case. Whatever it comes, that would be the tax to be paid by the SSC. That means the company, private limited company.
Sir, I have a question. There is, will the company be allowed to charge depreciation against this purchase?
Depreciation, yes, the company would be entitled to charging depreciation. Why not? Because it has actually paid taka 1 crore 40 lakhs.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
And that is the fact. There is a receipt, there is a voucher, whatever you want to ask for, he can provide you with everything. And he has actually paid out of the business. So that's why the money has gone from the bank or from cash. So he should be given the opportunity to charge depreciation because the cost of the jeeps would be 1 crore 40 lakhs. And the prescribed rate for charging depreciation on the jeeps would apply to it. And he will get it. No problem.
Sir, I have a question also as well.
Yes.
The company earned an income of taka 50 lakhs. Do you need to calculate the, sir, with the capital and reserve as well? Do you need to calculate this one?
Yes, that I said to you earlier, because the section says like that. If the company has got a paid up capital of taka 5 crores and an accumulated balance of taka 50 lakhs, that would be calculated. But if the company earns profit for that year only, that means that is a different figure. So
it will not be. It will not be.
No, the current
included,
profit will
yes.
not be added to that. Accumulated
I see.
balance.
I see.
Uh,
Okay, sir, I do understand.
because there might be some reserves in the balance sheet, which is called retained earning as well. So if there is a retained earning, that means
Then it will be included.
Yeah, it will be added to the paid up capital, but not the current
Profit.
Current profit is different. Okay, so I think this is clear.
Yes,
Now,
sir. Thank you, sir.
Welcome. Now, number 3. Okay.
Sir, I have,
Yes.
excuse me, sir. I have a question with last question. That is, like, suppose a company has a share money deposit along with the paid up capital. In that case, what would be the treatment? Will that share money deposit be calculated as not treated as capital?
Share money deposit is not accumulated reserve or retained earning. Share money deposit is different thing. So if we say that retained earning is 50 lakhs taka, then it will be added to the paid up capital. But if we say share money deposit means some people have given some amount for purchase of shares, like that. You mean that, don't you?
Yes, sir. That is.
So some people, a number of people, they have given or paid some money to the company in order to purchase shares in future. So it is the liability of the company to distribute shares among themselves. So whenever the company has got money from the shareholders, it is the obligation of the company to allot shares in favor of them. So that's a different thing. It is not actually reserved money. It was not earned by the company. Rather, it was collected by the company from some people. You mean what I said?
Okay, sir. Got it.
It should be company's earning, and from the earning, it should just create a reserve or retained earning. So whenever the company has earned a profit, the company might have given dividends on that profit. It has given tax to the government. And afterwards, the money which is in the hands of the company would be treated as a retained earning or reserve. That's why this is different. And share deposit is also different. Okay, so let us see the third question. Mr. A started business in export of ready-made garments in the year 1985, 1986. He was given a quota by Export Promotion Bureau of Bangladesh to export garments worth 1 lakh US dollar. Oh, wow. In the course of operations, he faced some problems and sold out 50% of the quota to somebody else. But he showed an income amounting to 0 in his return for the concerned year. What would be the calculation of income for the assessment year to be determined by the DCT? Any idea?
Sir, 3% of this 50%, I mean, 50,000.
50,000 US dollar?
Yeah. 50,000 US dollars. 3%.
So how to do that? Why should you do that? What is the relevant section for that? What is the background? Because there is a background regarding this issue.
Apologies, I can't remember it. Sorry.
So you should know the background first, because there is no quota system at this point of time. You will not find any quota system. So once upon a time, there was a quota imposed on various countries, especially the least developed countries and the developing countries. By whom the quota was introduced? The quota was imposed by the developed countries like the European Union and the USA. They imposed quota on the least developed countries and developing countries so that they cannot export as much as they can to those developed countries. Why? Because the developed countries, they had also ready-made garments factories, and they were also producing ready-made garments factories. But their cost of production was on the rise. That means their products were not competitive anymore. Since their products were not competitive, the companies in those countries actually started incurring losses. So that's why they decided that the quota system should be on the least developed and developing countries, so that there is a limited quantity of products which can go to their countries. And in the meantime, the factories in those countries, that means in the developed countries, they can close down slowly or in phases. So that was the reason why quota system was imposed. So it was such that Bangladesh might have been given a quota of $1 million US to export ready-made garments. So what Bangladesh should do, because the government is not exporting any product to the global market. So it is the private sector which exports products to the global market. And government has only got one option, and the option is government can allocate the quotas among the eligible exporters. So government knows who are the exporters of RMG. So among the RMG exporters, government can allocate the quotas, and so did the government that time. Because in 1985-86, the ready-made garments factories or business started with a few companies. There were not many companies. And among the few companies, the government allocated the quotas. So this gentleman, Mr. A, we have used A.
Sir, can I say something?
Yes.
Sir, can you, I think we can use the section 19/23 for this solution, I think.
Yes, of course, we can use 1923 in order to solve the problem. But what I am saying is that why it was imposed and what was the background, that you should also learn, because this system is no longer available in the country. Now we can export as much as we can of our ready-made garments to the rest of the world. So this is called duty-free quota-free market access. We have been given duty-free quota-free market access by the WTO, World Trade Organization. So that's why the situation is different and situation is in our favor. So that's why there was a mushroom growth of ready-made garments in Bangladesh after the quota system was abolished. So this system, what I have said to you now, was according to the Clothing and Textile Act 1974. So there was an act like that, and the quota system was introduced actually on the basis of that act. So 1923, what is said there? So where any income year, an SSC, being an exporter of garments, transfers to any person the export quota or any part thereof allotted to him by the government, such portion of the export value of the garments exportable against the quota so transferred as may be prescribed for this purpose shall be deemed to be the income of the SSC for that income year, classifiable under the head income from business or profession. So whenever the full quota, entire quota, or the part of quota has been transferred to another person and the allotee did not export the ready-made garments, in that case, that portion of the transferred quota would be treated as income of the SSC as per prescription. That means the $50,000 worth of ready-made garments could be exported to the global market. But what would be the income that would be prescribed by the income tax ordinance? That means whether this is $50,000 worth of goods, or whether less than that, or whether more than that, because the prescription should be given by the income tax ordinance. That means the Finance Act of that particular year. So it might be different in different income years because of the Finance Act. So the gentleman would have to be brought to action. That means he should be assessed to income by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes, although he showed a return of no income, because he showed nil income in his return from business under Section 28. But Deputy Commissioner of Taxes will not accept it. He will just assess him at a certain income from business. That means from business under Section 28. So that is the answer. You will refer to Section 1923 and 1923. What is said there, that has to be quoted. 50% of his quota worth $50,000 has been transferred, and this figure has to be assessed to tax, but which should be as per prescription of the Finance Act of the concerned income year. Okay, so question number 4. Can the loan or advance given to a shareholder by the company in return of an advance conferred on the company by the shareholder be deemed as dividend in the hands of the shareholder? So have you understood it? That is, the company actually granted a loan or advance to the shareholder. Why? Because the shareholder also granted an advance to the company. Now, whether this advance or loan given to the shareholder by the company should be treated as dividend. Any answer from your side? The answer is the advance given to the SSC by the company is not in the nature of a gratuitous advance. Instead, it is given to protect the interest of the company, meaning that advance was not free. That means gratuitous, it's not free, but it was given in order to protect the interest of the company. Because this gentleman, that is the shareholder, granted an advance to the company, and in return of that, the company has granted an advance or loan to the shareholder. This is just to protect the interest of the company. Therefore, the said advance cannot be treated as dim dividend in the hands of the shareholder. So there is a case study with regard to this, that is with reference to a case. We have actually put it here. And the name of the case is Pradeep Kumar Malhotra. It's Calcutta High Court case. Pradeep Kumar Malhotra. This is the solution to problem 4. Question number 5. Would the provisions of dim dividend be attracted in respect of financial transactions entered into the normal course of business? Here I should give you the version of the case. The version of the case is that there was a gentleman who actually booked resorts or hotels on behalf of other companies or other tourist companies. So this gentleman took some money from the tourist company in order to book the resorts in the hotels or resorts. On behalf of the people who would be willing to go to those hotels and resorts. So it is very necessary for a person to book a hotel or resort by giving an advance. That means the token of the payment should be given in advance in order to book it. Otherwise, the booking cannot be retained for the customers. So that's why this gentleman, he took some money from the tourist company. And with that, he actually used to book the hotels and resorts. So the question has arisen whether dim dividend could be attracted in respect of financial transactions entered into the normal course of business. So whether this advance money which he took from the tourist companies would be treated as, as dim dividend. This is not dividend. Actually, in fact, but the question is whether this is a dim dividend, which is not visible, rather it is invisible. The answer should be that this is not dim dividend, because it is necessary for everybody who would like to book a hotel or a resort for the customers. So that money is to be spent by him. He cannot keep that money with him. Rather, he has to spend that money. He has to send that money to the concerned hotel or resort. And in that way, he can retain the booking. So whatever amount he has taken from the tourist company, that was not retained by him. Rather, when the customer goes to the hotel, stays there for some time, and afterwards comes back, that means when the deal is over, then the total payment is made to the tourist company. The tourist company actually pays to the hotel or the resort according to their contract. So after the deal is over, the tourist company pays the gentleman who actually booked the resort or hotel a certain amount of money as commission. Maybe 10% of the total payment or 15% of the total payment. That would be given to the concerned person. So this is a commission which has been collected, received, or earned by the concerned gentleman. So that is income from his business. Business means commission, business, and that is a different thing. But whenever the person has got an advance money in order to book a resort or hotel from the tourist company, that cannot be treated as a normal course of business and cannot be treated as deemed dividend. So that is the answer. Okay. Number 6, whether income of an assessee can be estimated without any basis. That is the ultimate question. But of course, there is a case reference. And the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes, he assessed the income of the concerned person and he estimated the income without any basis. So the case was between Mr. Ali Ajam, advocate, and the Commissioner of Taxes, South Zone, Chittagong. So the High Court gave a verdict with regard to that. And of course, High Court had given decisions, and decisions we would be discussing. But whether the assessment could be made without any basis or not, that is to be considered first, and we have to elaborate it first. What would happen if you make the assessment without any basis? If it is so, it means that the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes has based on his whim. That means no judicious decision has been taken by him. And he estimated the figure maybe and arrived at an income without any basis. That means it is against the natural justice. The assessee was not given an opportunity to produce some evidences, etc., maybe, or even the assessee had produced some of the evidences, but those were not taken into account. So that's why the assessment was completed without any basis. So always the DCT should give an opportunity to the SSE by issuing notices under section 79 or under section 83(1 or both. He should also issue a notice under section 80 if he wants to collect the statement of assets and liabilities from the concerned SSE. So after collecting the evidences, bank statement, books of accounts, etc., the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes has to examine all those books of accounts, whether the income shown in the return by the SSE could be supported by the books of accounts or not. So if the income shown by the SSE in the return cannot be supported by the evidences submitted by the SSE, in that case, the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes would be able to make an assessment without considering the shown income in the return. So Deputy Commissioner of Taxes may say that, okay, the returned income is not correct and complete because evidences submitted by the SSE cannot support that income. So this income should be much higher. So how to arrive at that figure? If the evidential record is there or evidential documents are there, so the city can base on those documents. If there is a bank statement, of course, a certain amount of money has been credited to the bank account of the SSE, and it could be easily estimated by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes that whatever amount has been credited to the account of the SSE, that should come from the business. That means from the sale of the product. It's very natural. So he can just go by that. That is the total figure in the bank statement, that is which has been credited to the bank account, should be equivalent to the sale figure, sale proceeds of the SSE. In that case, he can come to an estimate. That is one way. Or if the DCT thinks that the return figure is not significant or correct or complete, in that case, he can consult the past record. What was actually done in the past record? Maybe last year, the concerned SSE was assessed to tax at a figure of taka 2 crores. So DCT can base on that figure. That is also possible because there is a past record. Otherwise, the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes can send his Inspector of Taxes to the place of the business of the SSE, and the Inspector of Taxes could be asked to submit a report on the performance of the business. That means how the business is actually going on, what is the amount of stock in the SSE's shop, and the customer base, whether customers are significant in number or not. All these factors would contribute to the estimation of the figure. So in that way, it will not be treated as an estimate without any basis. But if these systems or procedures are not followed, then the estimate made by the DCT could be treated as estimate of income without any basis or determination of income without any basis. So when income is determined without any basis, it means that it cannot be maintained in law. The tribunal or the appellate authorities would just reject the person of the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. That's why whenever assessment is to be completed, it should be based on facts and circumstances and should be on with any basis, not without any basis. So as I told you that this is a case reference between Mr. Ali Ajam advocate and the Commissioner of Taxes, Sajjo Chittagong, and it is a High Court decision, that means Dhaka High Court decision, and the High Court held that no, assessment cannot be held without any basis, or income cannot be estimated without any basis. So that's the ultimate gist of the case. Number 7, whether opportunity should be given to the SSC to explain his position when the DCT wants to enhance the declared income. So here, there is a declared income by the SSC, that means returned income. When a return has been submitted to the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes, the SSC must have shown an amount of money as income. So that is called declared income. And if the declared income is there and the DCT does not accept it and wants to enhance it, in that case, he should be given opportunity to explain the position of the SSC. Why income was so insignificant, what was shown in the return. So the DCT can actually ask the SSC why your income was so insignificant. What are the reasons? And DCT should be given the chance to explain it, because the SSC should be given the chance to explain it. And the SSC can say, okay, I could not do business for the half of the year because of pandemic situation. So that's why my sale was 50% of last year's. Or he can say that, okay, I could not buy the products from other countries. That is I do a trading business, so that's why I need the stock from other countries. So because of the lack of shapes, I could not buy the products or import the products from other countries of the world. So that's why I did not have any stock and I could not sell the products to the customers. So that's why my sale was actually half the size of the previous year. So whatever I have shown in the return is correct. And after taking into account the version given by the SSC, the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes would record all those facts and figures, and then he would come to a decision. So the most important thing here is that the SSC should be given an opportunity in order to explain his position when the DCT does not accept the declared income and wants to enhance it. So the arguments given by the SSC should be refuted by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes in order to arrive at a new figure of income in place of the declared income of the SSC. And here, of course, it has been held by the High Court. Held without any material basis and without giving an opportunity to the SSC to explain his position, his declared income cannot be rejected. Rejecting of such declared income is against the principle of natural justice. So, if the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes rejects the declared income of the SSC, it is against the natural justice. So that's why he cannot do it without any material basis or without giving an opportunity to the SSC to explain his position. Number 8 question. Assessee neither legal or beneficial owner of a property. Whether capital gain can be imposed in the hands or exchange of that property with another property. So here also we should be given the facts and figures of the case. That means a concerned person had some property and he sold out the property, but in exchange of that, he got other property. That means he did not receive the cash, rather he got the property in exchange of his own property. So the properties were actually transferred, and in that way, a capital gain actually arose. So which section we have to consult for this? What section should be consulted? First of all, you have to consult 266. That means section 2, subsection 66. And then you have to consult 32, section 32. Because under section 31, you will find capital gains. And under section 32, there are provisions relating to the capital gains, like exemption, when capital gain will not arise because of the exchange of the properties between the seller and the purchaser. And 266, that means it is transfer in relation to a capital asset, because when there is a capital asset, you have to transfer it. Without transfer of the capital asset, capital gain cannot arise. So, in order to a capital gain to arise, it needs to be capital asset, it needs to be transferred by one person to another person. So what is said in section 266, that is of importance to you. If you look at section 266, said here, transfer in relation to a capital asset includes the sale, exchange, or relinquishment of the asset. Just one moment. So as I said to you is that the transfer is very important for you to consider here, because whenever an asset is sold, it is transfer. Whenever an asset is exchanged, that is also transfer. So here it is said that in relation to a capital asset, includes the sale, exchange or relinquishment of the asset, or the extinguishment of any right therein, but does not include any transfer of the capital asset under a gift, bequest, will, or irrevocable trust. So you have to remember that if the property is gifted to somebody, it is not transfer. If there is a will of the property, it is also not transfer. So these are to be taken into account. Any distribution of the assets of a company to its shareholders on the liquidation. If the company is liquidated, at the time of liquidation, if the assets are distributed among the shareholders, that would also not be treated as transfer. Any distribution of capital assets on the dissolution of a firm or other association of persons, or on the partition of the Hindu undivided family. So when a partnership firm is dissolved and the assets are distributed among the partners, that will also not be treated as transfer. And when Hindu undivided family is dissolved and assets are distributed among the members of the family, this is also not transfer. And again, when there is an association of person which is dissolved and the members of the association of person are also given properties each, that is distribution of properties among themselves, then it is not also transfer. So all these things have to be known to you, and you have to remember that if it is not transfer, then capital gain will not arise. Then you have to go to section 32. What is said in 32? You have to specifically go to section 32.5, because when there is an exchange of property, that means your property has been sold out to somebody and you have purchased the property of that person, or you have purchased the property of another person. The values are a matter of consideration here. If you sell out the property at taka 5 crores, and if you buy another property at taka 4 crores, it means that taka 1 crore has to be taken into account for capital gains consideration. That means that taka 1 crore will be taxed to capital gains. And that is because of the value. So here 32.5 is necessary for you to understand. What is said in section 32.5, notwithstanding anything contained in this section or section 31, where a capital gain arises from the transfer of a plant, machinery, equipment, motor vehicle, furniture, fixture, or computer, which immediately before the date on which the transfer took place was being used by the SSC for the purpose of business or profession, and the SSC has, within a period of 1 year before or after that date, purchased a new plant, machinery, equipment, motor vehicle, furniture, fixture, or computer for the same purposes of his business or profession, then instead of the capital gain being charged to tax as income of the income year in which the transfer took place, it shall, if the SSC so elects in writing before the assessment is made, be dealt with in accordance with the following provisions of this subsection. That is to say, so whatever I have said is that if you sell out a property and if you want to buy another property from that date within 1 year, then It should be before or after, no problem. And in that case, the capital gain will not arise. So here it is said, clause A, if the amount of the capital gain is greater than the cost of acquisition of the new asset, the difference between the amount of the capital gain and the cost of acquisition of the new asset shall be charged under section 31 as income of the income year. So, as I said to you, that the value is a matter of consideration. So, if you sell out the property at 5 crores, and let us suppose that the capital gain is 5 crores here, or capital gain is 4 crores here, and if you buy a new asset at 3 crores, that is the acquisition price of the asset. In that case, the difference between the two is 1 crore. So 1 crore would be taken into account for income under the relevant section. Relevant section means under section 31 of the income tax ordinance. So that is the matter of consideration here. Clause B says, if the amount of the capital gain is equal to or less than the cost of acquisition of the new asset, the capital gain shall not be charged under section 31. So you understand very well that the capital gain is equal to the acquisition price, or the capital gain is less than the acquisition price. So there will not be any capital gain. Okay, here proviso 2 also said, for the purpose of computing in respect of the new asset any allowance under the first schedule, third schedule, or any income under section 1916, or the amount of any capital gain arising from its transfer, the cost of acquisition or the written down value, as the case may be, shall be reduced by the amount of that capital gain. Okay, that is a different thing. Our case reference is only with regard to the capital gain, whether it will be taxed or not. So here, provided that where in respect of the purchase of a new capital asset consisting of plant or machinery, the assessee satisfied the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes that despite the exercise of due diligence, it has not been possible to make the purchase within the period specified in the subsection. The Deputy Commissioner of Taxes may, with the prior approval of the inspecting Joint Commissioner, extend the said period to such date as he considers reasonable. So here it is important, because I have said that after the sale of the asset within 1 year, new asset has to be acquisition or new asset has to be acquired. So in that case, the exemption of capital gain will arise. So here it has been said that if the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes wants to charge the income because of the reason that the assessee could not buy the property within the due date, in that case, the assessee can approach the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes that in spite of his due diligence, he could not buy a property, but he is in search of a property. So the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes can extend the date. That is, if the 1 year is elapsed or 1 year expires, in that case, extension could be given to the assessee in order to buy the new property. So that could be done by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes with the prior approval of the inspecting Joint Commissioner of Taxes. So the assessee could be given an opportunity to buy the property within the extended time. And if he buys the property within the extended time, then the capital gain will not be charged. So that is the case reference.
Baba clase. That has my manager even.
ফারুক ভাই অফ করেন আপনার শোনা যাচ্ছে
So do you remember this? In that case, you can solve the problem which has been given here in question number 8. In question 9, whether family expenses of an SSC can be estimated behind his back. So that is the question here, and whether the DCT can do it or not. Family expenditure. So of course, it should be an individual SSC, and an individual SSC is supposed to submit a statement of assets and liabilities in some cases, not always. So if the expenditure of the SSC is shown in the statement of assets and liabilities, and if the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes is not satisfied with the expenditure shown in the statement of assets and liabilities, then he can enhance it. But whether he can enhance it behind his back means without giving him an opportunity to explain his position. So that is the question. You know that there is a statement of assets and liabilities to be submitted by the SSC before the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. So it is mandatory in some cases, but not mandatory in other cases, because whenever you have the prescribed amount of gross wealth, if you have a gross wealth amounting to taka, which is prescribed in the income tax ordinance, in that case, you have to submit the statement of assets and liabilities. So whenever you submit the statement of assets and liabilities, then you show some figures. You show figures about your assets, you show figures about your liabilities, and you also show figure about your expenditure. Expenditure means the expenditure of your family. That means your food expenditure, your accommodation, education, contents, medical, whatever. So these are actually different heads of expenditure. So if there is an expenditure shown by you, and if the DCT wants to enhance the expenditure, how to do it? Whether he can do it behind your back, that means in your absence, whether he can do it. He cannot do it because it is against natural justice, and also it is estimation of expenditure without giving a reasonable opportunity to explain your position. Because he can say that, okay, your expenditure which you have shown at 2 lakhs per year is not sufficient enough to cover your expenses. So I believe that your expenditure is more than that. That means it should be 3 lakhs taka per year. So he has to explain why it should be 3 lakhs taka per year. So he has to explain every head of expenditure. If you have shown your expenditure for the education of your children, he must mention how many children you have and where they are studying, and what should be the estimated amount of expenditure for studies. That means whether they are going to an English school or not, the amount of the salary that you have to pay, that is fees, tuition fees, coaching fees, etc. The accommodation, whether you are living in a costly accommodation or not, that is also a matter of consideration. And whether you have gone for recreation in other countries outside of Bangladesh. So that's why that has to be taken into account by the DCT. You can go through your passport and can see whether you have visited some other countries during the income year. If you have visited some other countries during the income year, it means that you have gone abroad and you have definitely spent certain amount of money for your travel. So that's why you can come to a decision that, okay, your expenditure shown by you in the statement of assets and liabilities is not sufficient enough to cover your expenses. So I estimate the expenses to be at 3 lakhs or 4 lakhs, whatever it is. So in that way, he can actually make the estimate of the expenditure, stating results and stating all the heads of expenditure. Otherwise, it will not be accepted in the appellate forum. So that is the answer you can put. Okay. Do you need any break?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, please.
How long?
Sir, maybe 15 minutes.
15 minutes. Okay. So take a break for 15 minutes and then come back.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, everybody back?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so we can start again. Question number 10. So here it is said, SSC's accounting year ended on 30th September 1983. Whether his income tax assessment to be completed under the provision of the Income Tax Act 1922 or under the Income Tax Ordinance 1984. So there was a special case that time because Income Tax Ordinance 1984 was enacted on the 1st of July 1984. But here the accounting year ended on 30th September 1983. That's why a question actually arose whether the Income Tax Ordinance has to be followed or the Income Tax Act 1922 has to be followed. So here actions could have been taken by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes under the Income Tax Act 1982 because he could have taken action after the accounting year was ended and return was supposed to be submitted. And if he had issued a notice under the relevant section of the Income Tax Act 1982, Income Tax Act 1922, and after the enactment of the Income Tax Ordinance 1984, he could actually continue the proceeding with the previous provisions of Income Tax Act 1982. There is no bar to that because whenever Income Tax Act 1922 was repealed, it was also said in the Income Tax Ordinance 1984 that proceedings started under the Income Tax Act 1922 should be treated as valid. And you can continue with the proceeding under provisions of 1984 as well. There is no problem with that. So here, the case studies held. It should be assessed under the provisions of Income Tax Act 1922 as it is stipulated in section 186 of the Income Tax Ordinance 1984. Section 186 of Income Tax Ordinance 1984 said that there is no ambiguity in the contents of section 186 of the IT Ordinance 1984. The case was Alauddin and Tower Textile Mills Limited versus Commissioner of Taxes, Dhaka North Zone, Dhaka. So that was a case of the High Court Division on 17th August 1999. So what we are discussing is that this is a case named Alauddin and Tawa Textile Mills Limited versus Commissioner of Taxes, Dhaka North Zone, Dhaka. It was held in the High Court Divisions on 17th August 1999. That is, the verdict was given on that date. So the Income Tax Act 1922 has been repealed. Notwithstanding the repeal, the Income Tax Act 1922 and the rules made thereunder shall continue to apply as if that act had not been repealed. And not any income of or relatable to any period prior to the commencement of the ordinance, and to any notice issued, and any assessment order or application or appeal made, any proceedings commenced, or any prosecution instituted under that act. What we said earlier? We said earlier that whatever actions have been taken under the Income Tax Act 1982, any notice issued, or any other proceedings have been issued by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes shall stand okay. Because in section 186 of the Income Tax Ordinance 1984, it has been said that all the provisions of the previous act would continue to be followed by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes if needed. So in that way, there is no problem with that. And you can write like that in the examination if it is set. And question 11, when books of accounts are to be or can be rejected. When can you reject the books of accounts? Not always. So books of accounts can be rejected by the DCT if there is no finding by him that method of accounting which has been employed by the SSC is not regularly employed by him, or that the method was such that, in his opinion, the income of the SSC could not be deduced therefrom. So two things have to be considered first. If you say that the method of accounting which was followed by the SSC in the previous year was not followed this year, so the same method was not followed by the SSC. So if there is a variation in the method followed by the SSC in various years, then his version of accounts cannot be accepted, and hence his books of accounts could be rejected. Or it could be like that the method of accounting has been followed, but income cannot be deduced from that. That is, it has been followed in such a way you cannot understand the income that has been derived from the books of accounts. So books of accounts are not clear, and they are not distinct, or they are not the true reflection of the business. So that's why you can reject those. So these are the two conditions here, but there are other conditions as well. So this case is N. Mohammed Engineering Industries Limited versus Commissioner of Taxes, Zone 2, Chittagong, High Court Division, 2nd December 1999. So this case was actually held on 2nd of December 1999. Other reasons could be that you maintain books of accounts, but the books of accounts did not contain all the vouchers, documents, evidences, bank account, day book, daily register, etc. So a summary of the account was produced by the SSC, and in that case, it could be rejected by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. Sometimes you will see that sale has been shown by the SSC at a certain figure, maybe which is 5 crores of taka, but sale book is not there, or inventory book is not there. If the inventory book is not there, then it means that you could not maintain the accounts properly or in an appropriate manner. So in that case, you have to consider that books of accounts have been maintained partially. So when the books of accounts have been maintained partially, it means that nothing could be challenged by the SSC against the order given by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. In that case, the books of accounts could be rejected. Sometimes a summary sheet is given by the SSC, stating the sale value, the purchase value, the figure of the closing stock and opening stock, and also the figures of direct expenses. So, but all these figures have to be supported by evidence, books of accounts, inventory book, daily register, etc. So whenever such a situation arises, in that case, the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes could reject the books of accounts, but depends on the degree. Degree means when vouchers are there, maybe 100% vouchers are not there, but 90% vouchers are there, or 85% vouchers are there. So only for 10% or 15% of vouchers, the DCT does not reject the books of accounts, rather he estimates the sale to some extent. So that is the procedure of doing it, or that is the tradition, or there are many case studies with regard to that. But here it has been said that method of accounting should be followed every year, the same method. It should not deviate from the previous method, and also it could be maintained in such a way so that you can just make out the figure of income. So these are the two reasons that have been cited by the High Court Division in this case. Number 12. Whether entertainment allowance can be given in case of loss. That is the question, but it could be, elaboration of the case, or it could be in an elaborate way. Whether entertainment allowance could be allowed by the DCT in case of loss incurred by the business. First of all, you should understand that entertainment allowance would be allowed on the basis of the income, that is the net profit. And Rule 65 of the Income Tax Rules 1984, you have to follow that. And this is under Section 30. Respective clause should be followed. How much entertainment allowances to be given, and the full amount of entertainment allowance is not accepted by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes as per law. So that's why certain percentage of the profit has to be accepted. So maybe at 4% and maybe at 2%. These are the two rates that have to be followed for a certain amount of profit, and again 2% for a certain amount of profit. Maybe for 10 lakhs taka first, and then maybe the rest. So whatever it is, according to the rule, so there is no problem. But the main question is whether entertainment allowance should be allowed in case of a business incurring losses. So because this is not profit, and you can say that since he is not making any profit and he's incurring losses, so that's why should he be allowed entertainment expenditure? So that is the usual question made by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. But since you are a practicing chartered accountant and you are representing the SEC, you have to give a decision. So here, section 234, you have to consult, because here income includes any loss of income, profits, or gains. It means that income means profit, income means gain, income means loss as well. So income includes everything. So if income is loss, no problem. So that is also income. We can say that it might be positive income or it might be negative income. So whenever loss is there, it is a negative income. So that's why but it is income. So entertainment allowance should be allowed on income. And I believe that since income includes losses, you can say just this, since income includes losses, the entertainment allowances could be also allowed on that. And this is the decision given by Seth Gurmukh Singh versus Commissioner of Taxes Punjab 1944. So that was the case of Punjab High Court, and case name has been given here. So you can also refer to that case in your answer, and that will serve the purpose. Okay, so next question is a little bit long question. When assessment or reassessment becomes barred by limitation of time, assessment completed under section 83(2) on 36/91 for the assessment year 1988-89. The SSC filed appeal to the Commissioner of Taxes Appeals against this assessment. The Commissioner of Taxes Appeals disposed of the appeal under section 156 on 10/3/1993. The TCT did not revise the assessment order pursuant to the Commissioner of Taxes Appeals order in time as stipulated in section 94(3), but went on second appeal to the tribunal against city appeals order. The tribunal disposed of the appeal on 5/4/1995. No stand taken by the SSC before the tribunal that as the DCT did not revise the assessment pursuant to the city appeals order, it has become barred by limitation. So if I explain it to you is that always the DCT's order cannot be accepted by the SSC. It may be contested by the SSC. So when it is contested by the SSC, it means that the SSC can prefer an appeal against the order of the DCT to the appellate joint commissioner or appellate additional commissioner or a commissioner of taxes appeals. So anybody. So when the order comes from the appellate additional commissioner or joint commissioner or commissioner of taxes appeals, in that case, it is the obligation, legal obligation of the DCT to revise the assessment order as per the decision given by the appellate authority. So there is a time in which or by which the DCT has to revise it. If he does not do it, then he has violated the provision of the Income Tax Act 94(3). So here what was done by the DCT is that the appeal authority's order was not revised, but he actually preferred an appeal on behalf of the government to the tribunal against the order given by the appellate authority. So the tribunal gave an order and he revised the order. So when the tribunal gave the order and he revised it, the appellate order, which was not revised by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes, that would not be taken into account because his misdeed was not to be taken as he has effected the tribunal's order in his file in case of the SSC. So that's why his bar of limitation has been taken into no account. that means is bar of limitation of revising the assessment is not considered by the income tax authority. Rather, the latest assessment order or latest revision order by the DCT of the tribunal's order will be taken into account and it will stand valid. All the time, this will stand valid. So that is the case actually. And the order said here, the original assessment was at stake before passing order by the tribunal. But soon after tribunal's order, the original assessment got fresh lease of life and merged with the tribunal's order, and the DCT, who was on default for not revising the assessment order pursuant to city's order under section 156, took the privilege to revise the assessment under section 80, under section 159 in time, and solved himself from the mischief of limitation in revising assessment under section 94(3). So when a higher court's order is effected, then the lower court's order is not to be taken into account. Hence the DCT, although he was default in not revising the assessment order, but still he has effected the order of the tribunal, which is a higher court, and that's why he is free from the default. So that is the decision, and you should remember here, whenever such a case arises, the answer should be given accordingly so that you don't have any problem and you can conceptualize it. If you can conceptualize it, then you will be answer any case reference or any issue raised by the examiner in the examination. So if you have any question, you can ask me any question. If not, you can go through all the questions in the handout and you can try to solve them. And my answer sheet will go to you. It has been prepared already and given to the personal officer of mine, and he will hand it over to the student counseling department and he will be distributed. So,
Sir.
Yes.
Sir, did you prepare the solution of the last synopsis? Did you provide the solution of the last?
Yes,
synopsis?
both the handouts have been solved. Both of them have been solved, and both of them will be distributed among yourselves, which I have handed over to my personal officer, and he will hand it over to the student counseling department for distribution.
So within next few days, I think we will get the solutions. Yeah.
Yes. We will get it maybe on Sunday.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
So that will serve your purpose. I believe if you go through it properly, I think you can have a good concept about the various issues.
Yes, I think so.
Okay. So thank you very much for your attendance. I hope that we can meet together again in some other classes and we can discuss some issues which can benefit you for your practical life and also for your examination.
So thank you so much for your contribution and patience as well.
Okay, thank you. Welcome.